All right, everybody, we are back again for another episode of the Coach's Compass. Don't know what episode it is because we just continue to roll and continue to bring on cool guests, right? Remember, always hit that like, subscribe, comment button down below so we can continue to have this thing grow and continue to bring this all around the world. It's your boy, Coach Coop, now reporting live from the United States of America. And again, as always, got another dope guest with us today. And I won't even say her first name because you got to put doctor in front of it. It's Doc. She's got a PT, DPT, CSCS, pain-free performance specialist, and she's also the founder of the Unleashed Athlete. She's the creator of Dr. Sam Performance Hacks. She's a former lacrosse player, loves to get jacked, loves eating bagels, and loves to climb mountains. Dr. Sam, thank you for being here with us today, and welcome.
Intro, Coop.
Hey, like I said, got to give people their flowers. But you read that resume, right? You see all those letters, all those certifications, and then you got doctor in front of the name. What led you down this path, and how did you get to this point?
Great question. So it really, my story is very multifaceted, very complex. When I was in high school, I developed an eating disorder. Like I feel like many female athletes in my generation did. We grew up with the Victoria's Secret models and, online was glorifying keto diet, no carb, all that BS that now thankfully is being debunked on the internet. And my kids will not grow up with that. Thank the Lord. And so how does this lead into PT, right? So I had an eating disorder. I really loved health and fitness. Because I wasn't feeling my body properly, though, I would go to and from lacrosse practice, basketball practice to the gym, do more cardio, cut out carbs. And that led to chronic pain throughout my body because my body was not recovering properly. I wasn't sleeping well. I was stressed out. I was constantly exercising, not fueling enough. So I had chronic pain. I kept spraining my ankles. And I felt like growing up, a lot of doctors kind of wrote me off. Because of my ankle, knee, hip pain, I would go to the doctors. They would prescribe PT. PT wouldn't work because they would just do table exercises with me and modalities, and they wouldn't get to the root cause. And I was an athlete. I wanted to be able to play. I was a starting varsity as a sophomore. I wanted to be able to play, and they're just giving me table exercises. And I just didn't feel like I was actually being treated the way that I should have been I was in high school, but still I was a high level athlete for a high schooler, and just caused me, I loved physical therapy because I was constantly in physical therapy, and I loved the idea of movement as medicine, but I didn't feel like it was actually being practiced the way that I had imagined it. So ended up in high school, I ended up having heart surgery, minor, but still a heart surgery. Doctors wanted to do surgery on my ankles because my ankles were chronically unstable, and I said no. And I ended up joining a strength and conditioning camp over the summer, me and a football team, bunch of jack dudes. I was so uncomfortable being there, but I was like, I need to learn this because this is what I'm not getting in physical therapy. And, I've always been very smart and independent. So I would research stuff of, why do my ankles hurt? Why does this hurt? How do I get rid of ankle pain? And online was telling me strength training. I'm I don't even know how to do that. I don't know what that is. So I joined the strength and conditioning camp, me and a bunch of football dudes, and it was over a summer. And the football coach at the time, kind of took me under his wing. He kind of could tell that I was struggling a little bit with body image, and he really made me feel comfortable being in a room full of jack dudes. And he taught me how to strength train. He taught me how to properly eat, taught me about supplements, and still stay in contact with him to this day. So it's been over a decade of him mentoring me. And I actually did an internship under him one summer after I got my CSCS. So he was a really pivotal role for me. And the reason why I went into physical therapy instead of strength and conditioning is because I saw that gap between physical therapy and strength and conditioning. So I knew that if I got my doctorate in physical therapy along with my strength and conditioning certification, I could help bridge that gap. And so that's where Unleashed Athletics was born.
I love it. But how, you guys didn't have strength and conditioning for lacrosse? Obviously this was a little bit.
I don't even remember.
Really?
I know that now they do, because now I coach my old high school team.
Okay, so they have it
And
now.
so now I know that they have it, but I know that the girls underuse it. Like they do not go because they're intimidated by all the male energy.
Mm. So how hard is it to bridge that gap with getting girls to understand like how important strength and conditioning is, especially speaking for yourself, you know what I mean? Like you've gone through the experience of what it was like to have these ankle injuries, the body image stuff, and then now you're like trying to get girls to understand like how important strength and conditioning is just to help them become better athletes and live a healthier lifestyle. Like, do these girls buy into it?
I think that that's where social media can actually be very beneficial to the younger generation. I know there's also negative side effects and maybe they use it too much and for the wrong reasons, but if I could be a positive ripple in the water for them, that's what I want to be. So I talk about when I first started my Instagram page, I was talking about eating more food and lifting weights and how it doesn't make you bulky and et cetera, et cetera. And now that page started in 2021 after I'd gotten my CSCS. So now, since I've gotten my doctorate in 2022, I've shifted more of the messaging towards like pain-free performance, but I still incorporate, because what PTs were missing for me was the nutritional aspect of things. Like they could have given me the best exercises in the world, but none of it was going to work because I wasn't recovering. So I wasn't sleeping, I wasn't eating enough, I wasn't hydrating properly. So those are the messages I'm putting out on my Instagram for, and I go through my followers, I see who's following me. I do have a good amount of high school girls who are in there or aspiring DPTs. So it's really nice to have that platform, but also actually being in the coach's seat and actually coaching the team. And so when I'm coaching this high school team, funny enough, my sister is on the team. So I get to
You guys butt
impact.
head, huh?
No, she loves it. She loves having me there. But at the end of every practice, eat protein, eat carbs, hydrate. Postseason, you guys, we got to get into strength training. I gave them, I talked to them about the benefits of strength training. They come to me, like, Coach Sam, my ankle's hurt. I'm like, okay, we just need to build strength. Like right now during the season, honestly, there's not much we can do besides some Band-Aid solutions, right? Because strength doesn't happen that quickly. So here's what we're going to do. Like, and I coach them on what we need to do during the season, all the recovery aspect of things, some minor stretches and strengthening, but off season, we need a game plan of strength training so that we had so many girls this year. This was my first year working with them, and we had so many girls with tendonitis and overuse injuries coming in at the beginning of the season. And I was like, this could have been prevented. So now I've given them the education, and hopefully they're taking me up on it and doing their strength work, because there is somebody else who's affiliated with the school already doing their strength work. So all I could really do is like guide them in the right direction, so that I don't step on toes and like take over that strength and conditioning aspect of things. But I do have them like messaging me, is this a good exercise? Like, what do I do for this? So I think that they do see the benefit. And then they also say to me, like, they see how good I look and the cool things that I do. And they're like, I want to be like that. And I'm like, cool, then you have to do what I do. So
Right.
I think that's where the buy-in comes in.
That's cool. I mean, obviously, we found you on social media because obviously I love what you're doing on there and just the stuff that you're preaching, not only, from the athletic side, but nutrition side too. But you talk about that gap between personal training, I mean, not personal training, physical therapy and strength and conditioning. What is that gap that you're kind of seeing, and how are you trying to narrow it down? Because it's a hard one to kind of narrow, and get people in that window between, coming back from an injury or just to perform like the little injuries that they've had, and then also with strength and conditioning. So how are you narrowing it down, and what are you doing to help that?
Great question. So the gap that I see is, because I worked in the traditional PT setting for 2 years. We have to do a year of clinicals plus a year of actually like working. So through those 2 years, what I've seen is, like I said, we have high level athletes. They want to get, like, even if they're high school, they want to get back to playing their sport. And then we have them doing clamshells and bridges and lateral raises and like with like 2 pounds. And I'm like, what is actually going on? Like, what is actually going
I
on?
can tell you nothing. That's what's going on.
Literally nothing. And some PTs practice where they over glorify modalities. Like E-stim's going to help you like decrease your pain. Come in for dry needling once a week. Let me adjust you every other week. Like that's going to help maintain and manage your pain. It's like, at what point do we give the autonomy back to these athletes? There's no autonomy there. You need me is the narrative that they're writing. You need me for the modalities. You need me for soft tissue. You need me for adjustments. And while there is benefit to the modalities, they're not necessary. And without proper strength training and mobility work, right, they lack sustenance. It's kind of just like it's neuromodulation, where it changes your pain sensitivity temporarily. So you feel better, like you always feel better after an adjustment or after e-stim or acupuncture, you always feel better. But then what happens 2 weeks later, 2 months later, it comes back, you have to go back, and we don't have that autonomy. And we're not actually learning, how do we maintain this long term? In PT, nobody talks about sleep, nutrition, stress, hydration, nobody. So like that's a big gap. Because like I said, that was my biggest thing. What I was missing was all of that. The nutritional advice, hydration, sleep, stress management. Like I've always been someone who's put high expectations on myself. And that causes a lot of stress. And with stress comes high cortisol. Prolonged levels of high cortisol comes inflammation. When you have pain and chronic pain, that's like there's high levels of inflammation. So now you take the stress and the pain. Now there's high levels of inflammation. With stress, your pain tolerance is lowered. So now you have exacerbated pain from stress. Not saying that like pain is from stress, but stress exacerbates and prolongs it. And so there's all like pain is just so multifaceted. And I feel like in physical therapy, they just focus on modalities, exercise. And like a good PT will take you through more exercise. And like the last PT clinic I worked at, honestly, they had a great setup. They had weights, people were using the barbell, people were using machines. It was great. But again, we were still missing key aspects. And still, some of those PTs would just keep their patients in the room the whole time and not get them out on the gym floor. Me, even if I had an 80-year-old with a stroke, grandma was out on the weight floor with me. Like,
we didn't know what
barbell, if she's using dumbbells, like she's doing something, because I know the benefit of that. But I also did fall into the trap when I was working in PT. I had too many patients. It's not ignorance from PTs that are not using this continuing education for their patients. It's more so the lack of time and resources. Because when you're working in a PT clinic, you see 12 to 15 patients in a day. In an 8-hour day, do the math. That's like 2 to 3 patients in an hour. So you really, and then a lot of the time, and I did this too when I was in PT because I needed more time, patient comes in for their 2:30 appointment. For 5 to 10 minutes, you either have them on the bike or have them on heat to warm them up to give you a buffer between patients. But that is waste. Like now they're like 10 minutes is a lot of time. And you pay a lot for physical therapy. So now you're wasting all of that time just to buy yourself time with other patients. And it's kind of necessary when you're working in a fast-paced environment like that. So now you're down to a 50-minute session, but really you only have 15 more minutes because you have another patient coming in at 3:00. So now you have 20 minutes with this patient, and now you're going to end up doing 10 minutes of manual work because that's what PT school teaches you. And then if you're lucky, you get in some exercise before you pass them off to a rehab tech who sometimes doesn't even have a degree in exercise science. That's such a broken system. And the reason is it's not like physical therapy or the profession's fault. It's the healthcare system and the insurance, right? Because if these PT clinics didn't do that, they would make no money because
Right.
Insurance reimburses at a very low rate for physical therapy. So at the core of the issue is insurance. So that's why I don't have insurance. I don't take insurance. Like I work fully remote. They pay for the services. They could use HSA. If they want to put in a claim for their insurance and try for reimbursement, we can do that. But we're not directly taking insurance because that would limit what we do. And insurance also, sorry, I can go down rabbit holes on this.
No, it's okay. I mean, it's important to learn. I mean, especially for our American listeners and our European listeners. Like, I
Yeah.
don't, because I'm just thinking back to myself of being a former athlete, like going to physical therapy. Like, yeah, we had, so if you, in high school, I remember you went to an outside person. But when you're in the college and pros, like you're just, it's like in the system,
Yeah.
right? So it's somebody that's there in house that like is working on you and stuff. So I felt like we had a lot more time and attention, but also sometimes you got passed over to the intern, right? Like
Exactly.
you did a little bit of work with the head guy, and then the intern kind of came in and worked on you, and you did the, like you said, the little modalities and everything like that. But everything was just trying to see how quickly can we get you to return to play. Never that you were like actually fully at 100%. I'm thinking about all the things you're talking about too. You know what I mean? Like just thinking about like when I was in high school and I broke my ankle,
Hmm.
and like going for like an hour, like first like 10-15 minutes was all like stem, heat pad, and like let's get on the bike and warm up a little bit. Then you did a few exercises, and then at the end it was like, I'm trying to think, it was stem and ice again, and then hey, you're out of here.
Dude, the ice after exercise kills me.
Yeah. And for I mean, being a like an athlete, like you think, okay, well, like this is what we're supposed to do because it's been told to us for
Yeah,
so
that's
long.
what
Like,
you've been taught.
because like even after football practice and stuff, like you grab bags of ice, you put it on the knees, the shoulders, and everything like that, and then you're on with your day. So it's like hearing it all now, like as I've gotten older and now I've become like I'm done with being an athlete. It's like shit, like we weren't really doing much to actually help our bodies. Like
Yeah.
how much were we doing wrong? But you also like you talk about like this gap and everything like that. And I want to give you like a scenario because I like it's from a male's perspective, hearing from the female perspective on how to work with, female athletes and their bodies, like, girls that are maybe going through times where they're having missing like a menstrual cycle, or they're having eating disorders, and or maybe they have more irregular menstrual cycles. Like how does that affect the athlete, and how can coaches, strength coaches and physical therapists work together on that to kind of help, the female athletes with those problems?
Yeah. So I think that a really big way that we can be helpful for athletes in this regard, because I never pretend to be an expert on eating disorders just because I had one, right? I feel like I see that on the internet a lot. Just because you had something
Right.
doesn't make you an expert on it, right? Like
No.
I have hypothyroidism. I'm not an expert on hypothyroidism. My doctor is. She handles that, right? So I don't pretend to be an expert on eating disorders. So I always ask, do you have additional support in this area? Like I do have a couple of female athletes on my roster who do have eating disorders, but they are past and they are continuing to get that experience, that support elsewhere. So they have an eating disorder specialist therapist that they speak to on a weekly basis. It's important for me that they have that because I'm not that. And if they don't have that, I don't know I can help them to the best of my ability, because that is a really big roadblock. They need to get over that and have that support. And I don't want to pretend to be that person because I know I'm not the best person for that. So I always make sure, do we have that additional layer of support? If they don't, this is where we also have a job as coaches and healthcare professionals to refer out, to help them find the support, because too often people don't even know how to find support. So, for example, I have a couple of post-op patients too who are going into their doctors and they're not knowing what questions to ask. So I'm helpful for them right now because right now we're not doing too much movement. We're doing a lot of focus on the foundations, right? Recovery, sleep, nutrition, hydration. And then I'm helping them advocate for themselves and teach them, where do you find resources? What questions do you ask? What do you need to know? Don't leave the doctor without getting this information, because people will. Like, I'll be like, okay, what did your doctor say about or like, what does that mean? Why are you taking this medication? Oh, I don't know. Why don't know. Like, but people just don't know to ask their doctors, like, why. They don't think that they can question their doctors. But that's how I got to where I am today, because they wanted to do surgery on my ankles and I was like, why? Oh, there's a lack of stability. Why? Oh, because your ligaments are all stretched from all the sprains you've had. Well, is there something else I can do? Yeah, you could go to PT. Okay, I tried PT, it wasn't working. Is there anything else? No. I'm like, that sounds really silly. So that's where I went to strength training. And then with my heart too, I didn't find out I needed heart surgery for 3 years. Doctors kept telling me it's your anxiety. We can put you on anxiety meds. I went to multiple different doctors. I drove around the tri-state trying to find doctors. And finally someone like found that I had what's called SVT. I just needed the electrical system in my heart wasn't working properly. I needed something burned to, like, it was easy surgery, right? But
Still heart surgery, but
still heart
easier
surgery,
one.
but yeah, not open heart. Like, but the alternative was, of course, they wanted to put me on beta blockers for the rest of my life. And I was like, why? And they were like, oh, well, like I asked the side effects. Oh, it's going to slow you down. Like you might not run as fast. Okay, no, no, I'm the fastest girl on the lacrosse team. I can't have that happen. So I think that people just don't know the right questions to ask. So we can be helpful in helping them understand how to advocate for themselves and find that support. I'm collaborating with other professionals on how I can best support my athletes that do struggle with eating disorders or are post-op and are working with MDs and their surgeons and whatnot. So it's helping them figure out how to advocate for themselves. Where do they find the support? And then collaborating as a team and staying within our specialty. Because the other thing is that if you try to be multiple things, you can never get really good at one. Right? So I'm not going to pretend to be a counselor, a therapist, like, a nutritionist. Like, I'm going to stay within my scope of practice and help you find other scopes of practice that can help other issues that you're having and be part of your care team. And that's really what a lot of people need that they miss, is they don't have a care team. They have one person. And again, one person can't specialize in everything.
But a lot of people try to. I mean,
a lot of people try to.
It's super important and great to hear you say that, like, hey, like if I don't know something, like I'm going to find the best person for you. You kind of stay in your lane, like what you work on. Like you say like I had an eating disorder, but like let me find you help. Like instead of like saying, oh, well, I had an eating disorder, so I know how to handle yours. A lot of people get in that little rut and try to say that they know how to handle that stuff. And then like being able to work as a team, because I think even myself, being a coach, like it gets tricky where you're like, who do I ask for help and who do I go to and who do I look up to? Like for yourself, who are some coaches and some doctors that like you kind of have as mentors and people that you kind of go to continue to educate yourself and continue to fine tune your own game, but also that you keep in your network that like, hey, if I need you for this, like for nutrition, or if I need you for strength conditioning, like who are your people?
So that's where I was going to go next too, is that it's really important to have that network. So that's why every single person that follows me on Instagram, I send them a welcome message. Like, hey, how are you? What brings you here? To see who's in my circle, like who's watching me, who can I help or help me. So like I've had multiple people, even this week I had 2 people apply for coaching with me, and they said their main issue was they want to develop a healthier relationship with food. I'm like, that's great. I'm not your girl. Here's who is. And so I'll refer them to I have a network of people, friends who specialize in building better relationships with food, friends who specialize in fat loss. So sometimes I'll even take clients, and once we're done working together, like I'm equipped to handle fat loss, but say like our contract's ending and we've gotten them out of pain, we've gotten them to a good place. Now they want to lose fat. If I feel like they would be better off with one of my friends, I'll refer them to one of my friends and have my friends take care of their fat loss. Because like I said, while I can do that, like I know how, I want to stay in my lane of pain management and performance and refer out for other things. So I do have a very large network. I have a holistic health doctor who I work with for my health issues like hypothyroidism, etc. And I'll refer to her if anybody has any hormonal issues or anything like that. So I have people who I refer to, who I can ask questions to like, do you think this client would be a good fit for you? Or do you think I should refer her out somewhere else? So it's really important to have that network of people.
No, that's dope.
Yeah, it's very, very important. And then vice versa, when they have a client who, this is something that I've been doing more recently, is whenever my coaching friends, somebody else on the internet who I know who coaches, they have a client who has some kind of pain or tweaks something, or they need help with that, I'll actually step in and be part of their rehab team. So the coach like just pays me part of what the client is paying them. I step in for 3 months, take over the training, take over rehab, while the other coach continues to do nutrition, mindset, like whatever her wheelhouse is. And then after 3 months, or when the client is no longer in pain, I step back out. So I can just be that filler for them, because often they don't want to go to PT because they've had a bad experience in PT before, or they don't have the time or the money for it because now it's going to cost them more time and more money. Whereas if I just step in, it doesn't really cost the client anything else, anything more, right? I'm just becoming part of their team now. So that's how I've found it's really important to build your network, to get to know people on the internet who are doing similar things that I'm doing, but find what their wheelhouses are and then learn, when can I refer out to you. I also have a dietitian friend that I refer out to, or I ask friends, or ask for advice, a pelvic floor specialist friend. So there's a lot of different realms. And sometimes we'll collaborate too with, like, I'll reach out to them and be like, I need assistance with this client. They'll come step in for a little bit and help me out. So that's really, really important that you have that network. And then to your question of who do I look up to, who are my mentors, I always have a mentor. It's just so important. I mean, I'm only 2 years out of school. I cannot pretend like I know everything, like I'm not going to make mistakes. So I constantly have a mentor so that I have that ability to refer and ask questions. Right now, I'm in the Active Life Professional Mentorship. Dr. Sean Pastuch created it. I'm working with Dr. Kaylin Ashby specifically. So he's my mentor. He's really great at answering questions I have about like clients in particular, or about mindset stuff for my clients, because he's been in the game a lot longer than me. So it's really, really nice to have him as someone to ask specific questions about my clients for. I've also had multiple coaches in the past just for my own fitness, because I find that I just learn a lot when I'm focusing on my own health and fitness. 4 Weeks to the Beach at Aram Gregorian was one of my mentors for a little bit. He's really great with nutrition and with older women. So he was helping me understand better nutrition for older women and exercises for them, and just like learning about different ways to program. Jason Brown is someone who I look up to. He hasn't mentored me specifically, but I follow his stuff. I subscribe to all of his programming stuff. And people like, why am I blanking on his name? I feel so bad right now.
So many names, right? Too many people to keep up with.
There's a lot of people in my circle who I use as like mentorship in a way to continually grow. Like if there's one thing that I'm really good at continuing my education and making sure that my athletes are not getting that they're getting the best service possible. And I know that like the best is yet to come, because I'm continually learning. I'm only 2 years out of school, and in school you don't even really learn a lot of the stuff that I'm teaching. That's a lot of it has come from continuing education, from the pain-free performance specialist. Dr. Justin, Farthworth, I think his last name is. He ran my pain-free performance specialist seminar that weekend, and I follow him and use all of his stuff. Like, he's a really great mentor to me. And then my strength and conditioning certification. And I also did a health coaching mindset certification with Dr. Casey Joe. So I'm constantly doing something to further my education. Now I'm looking for like a runner's course to take. So I have a lot of with this like hybrid athlete boom going on. Everybody wants to run,
and these new
now everybody's getting injured.
Yeah. The run clubs, paddle tennis, or whatever it is, and like you said, high rocks, hybrid athletes. It's becoming a new wave. So super important that you're learning that running side.
Yeah, so now I'm looking into like a running CEU, so that like I've learned through like clinical rotations or just working in person a little bit about running analysis, but I never took a full course on it. So now I'm like, all right, now I gotta do this, because I have someone who just came in and wants to run a half marathon or a full marathon. I've trained people for halves before, so I'm like, I really gotta like get this running analysis thing down.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to that. I just do a lot of continuing education. I feel like I'm never not learning, and I feel like that's the key to really maintaining like a really great business as well as like your reputation. If you are continuing, this is the issue I see with a lot of older PTs, like they're just so stuck in the ways of like what they learned a long time ago, and they're not keeping up with the new research coming out, and that causes you to just like fall behind. And then you don't, you're not treating your patients with the newest research. So that's one thing that like I'm never going to stop.
Yeah, I mean, once you figure out that run analysis stuff, let me know so you can tell me what it's like to like enjoy running a mile, because I tried it for like 7 days and I absolutely fucking hate it. I hate running a mile. I don't
You
love
don't
running.
have
Just
to though. That's the thing either. Like
exactly.
you
I'd
could do
rather just
cardio
sprint.
some other way.
Sprinting is my thing. I'd rather run fast, and I know if I run too fast to start the mile, like it's over with for me. So I gave up on the whole mile thing. So that's out there to all the listeners. Ain't doing no mile no more. I'll just be sprinting. But what is, for Dr. Sam, what do you think, is setting you apart and helping you achieve success within within this industry? And what are, because you talked about performance hacks, what are some of those performance hacks that you're giving to people out there?
Yeah. So I think what sets me apart is I'm real and raw. Like if I make a mistake or if I don't know something, I'm the first person to be like, hey, I fucked up. Or like, hey, I don't know. Like if a client comes to me with an issue and I don't know, I'm not going to pretend to know. I'm gonna be like, hey, let me turn to my mentor. I'll get back to you. And on the internet too, like I posted kind of a controversial reel the other day about how like 90% of PT is placebo, and I got a little bit of hate on it. And I'm like,
That's
you're just
internet. Yeah.
mad because I'm speaking the truth. And like, I'm not gonna apologize for that because I know what really works. And like through my experience, I've been through the system. It's not like I'm making this stuff up. Like I've been through the system. I think that like I'm not afraid to put out controversial things. I'm not afraid to admit that I'm wrong or made a mistake. I'm constantly learning, and we do take that holistic approach at Unleashed Athletics. So, like I said, what those PTs are missing out there about nutrition, recovery, like the sleep, the hydration, the stress management, those things play a role. Like your relationships play a role in your ability to like lead a pain-free, active, athletic life. Because if you don't have that support, like it, so we are looking to change lives, not just get you out of pain. We're looking to, the first thing we have our athletes do when they come in is we ask them about their why. Like, what is your why for transformation? That is going to get to a decreased pain. That's not your goal. It's what decreasing pain is going to do for you. It's going to allow you to climb the mountains. It's going to allow you to be more intimate with your partner. It's going to allow you to get on the ground and play with your kids, your grandkids, your pets. It's the experiences that getting out of pain is going to get you. It's going to decrease or improve your health markers because now you can be more active. You can live longer. It's not, your goal is not to decrease pain. Your goal is all of that other stuff. And that's what we have to focus on because motivation dwindles, right? So when that happens, we need to turn to what's the bigger why, because that's the emotional piece that people are going to cling on to. And in PT too, people won't show up for their appointments. They won't do their home exercises because you haven't given them a good enough reason to do it. So I think that's a big thing that sets us apart is we are much more than just exercise and becoming pain-free, but we are really looking to change your life and change the way that you look at movement. So that's the movement that we are creating.
Love it. I love it. Now, if Dr. Sam looks back at, 16, 17-year-old herself right now,
oh my God,
what would be the best piece of advice or words that you would say to her now?
that deep. Like I just thought everything was like earth shattering. Like I took everything so personally. There's no grace given to myself. Every time, like I thought failing was like failing. I didn't look at it as an opportunity to learn. And the person I am now, like I know things aren't that deep. I have more fun with life. If I fail, like I figure out a different route. I don't let it, like I would spiral. Oh my God, like 16-year-old Sam was like a ball of anxiety. I would spiral. I was always in a rush, always in a rush. Like, life's going to be there. So I think I would just like, it's not that deep. Life's gonna be there. It's not like there's no race to the end here.
I love it.
I swear to God, I walked around like this. I was like so stressed out. I'm just like.
It's crazy when you think about back to like your 16, 17-year-old self and you're like, well, what was I doing then? Like, what was I so worried about? Like, I woke up each day and I still got a chance to live and do something, right? Why was I so stressed?
Yeah. I have a 17-year-old sister. So I'm like watching her and I'm like, she is so mature. Like, I'm like, when I was your age, I was a mess. Like, I'm just going to chalk it up to me. Like, you're welcome. I'm your role model. You're welcome.
You know, I took on all the stress and anxiety and all the other stuff.
I didn't have that when I was growing up. So, like, you have me to ground you.
That's nice. And then looking at, you know, your PTs, the DPTs, the CSCS, and all the people that are trying to get started and kind of not follow the exact same path, but kind of trying to go down the same way you've gone down. What would be, you know, advice to a coach just getting into it?
I have people ask me this like almost every day, and I'm like, what is the best, you know, like what is the best thing to say in this instance? And I think it's just like, get started and stop giving an F what people think. Because that was another one of my issues is I would overanalyze my Instagram posts and overanalyze my message and try to make sure that I said everything perfectly. And like, if you come across as picture perfect, nobody's gonna want to work with you. Mm-hmm. You need to humanize yourself. And that's something that I've started doing the last year or so. Like, I'll share my struggles on my Instagram and with my clients. And my clients will message me individually and be like, thank you so much for that. Like, seeing you as a human, like, really just gives me more hope and motivation. And like, it really humanizes you. And I'm like, why do you guys think I'm not a human? Like, people look up to us, which is great. But then they feel like we're above them when we're not. Like, we have to make ourselves as equals to them, especially like if you want that level of respect, right? Like, you can't patronize or, you know, and it's sometimes unintentional, but if you're painting this perfect picture of yourself, people are intimidated by you. Whereas like when you let down your walls and you humanize yourself and you post what you want to post, say what you want to say and not worry about what other people are going to think, like that's where you find success. Along those lines, the biggest thing to figure out is who is your ideal client? Like, who are you speaking to? And get to know that person in a very deep level. So I have a couple, like, I just in the past had a couple of athletes who were like my ideal clients. And so I just asked them the most questions. What's your favorite TV show? What kind of music do you like? Like, what do you do in your free time? And I got to know them on a very deep level. And that allowed my messaging to get really clear. So now I know exactly who I'm talking to. So when I post on Instagram, it hits home for people. And so I tell stories plus like the education aspect of things, right? You have to have that balance of selling yourself while also providing education so that people can build that trust with you. But really the biggest thing is to just like not care what people think, because everybody's going to have an opinion. People love their opinions. Oh, yeah. I had somebody who is not a doctor, doesn't have any kind of certification. She's a content creator. Comment on my post and was like, this is so wrong. Blah, 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 blah. You're not even in the medical field. And I didn't even have to say anything. My followers got my back. And my followers were like, she's a doctor. And they all started fighting in the comments.
You gotta love the Twitter fingers, baby.
I was like, oh my God, I'm not getting involved in this. But everybody's going to have an opinion. People who are not qualified to have an opinion will have an opinion. So like, just put it out there. Just say what you want to say, whatever your story is, whatever you feel like your ideal client needs to hear, just put it out there and your ideal client will, and it takes time. Like I've been on Instagram for three and a half years now. And I feel like I'm just now getting the recognition in the past like couple of months. So it takes time, and I've just been consistently for the past 3.5 years. I have been posting 5 days a week on my Instagram, sometimes more. Post on my story every single day, even if it's just one thing. Just you have to be consistent. And if you're curious about like more on how to improve that, I have a business mentor, Kendall Strample. She's really great. She owns Wealthy Women's Business Academy, and then also what's his name? She's a really big speaker. She like went live on Instagram every day for like a year, and she's just really good about like building up that confidence and putting out what you want to put out. So I would also follow other people and see what they're doing, how they show up confidently, and like study other successful people on the internet.
I love it. Continuing, like you said, continuing to learn all the time.
Yeah.
But Dr. Sam, before we get out of here, we got our last segment of the day, right? It's the 60-second round. 1-word answers is 10 questions, and it's all across the board. Are you ready for it?
Oh, geez. Yeah. Let's do
Yeah. Here we go. 60 seconds on the clock. 10 questions. All right, here we go. Favorite post-workout snack. Best coach you've ever had. Favorite mountain you've climbed. Pizza or burger?
Pizza.
Your favorite exercise. Which do you prefer, a good sprint session or a heavy lift session?
Sprint.
What is your number one flaw as a coach?
Men.
Dream car.
Oh, cars. A boat.
Would you rather be in an octagon with a gorilla, tiger, or a bear? And that is it. Dr. Sam, thank you so much for your time today, and thank you for being here with us today. Now, we appreciate everything that you came on and dropped, like a lot of knowledge on here, so can't wait for our listeners to hear all about what Dr. Sam has to say. If you have a chance to check out her Instagram, go check it out. That's how we found her. Look through a lot of her work. She's dropping a bunch of knowledge on there. So Dr. Sam, thank you.
Thank you so much, Coop. It's been fun.
And we're out.